Students, today we see the last part in the herd mania, that is the Ascidian tadpole. First of all, we must know what is tadpole or the larva. Last year you studied this larval, crustacean larvae and all these things. So the larva is the intermediate stage in the development of the animal, and from that stage the adult stage is developed. So it is in between the developing embryo and the adult one. In the lower animals, lower invertebrates or lower chordates, the animal is not directly developed into an adult one or structure like an adult. So it is having intermediate stage. They live for some days and they feed and then they grow into the adult one. So here today we see the structure of Ascidian tadpole larva. Now see the diagram on the screen. You can see this Ascidian tadpole. Now it is the larva of herdmania, is about 1.5 mm long and is covered by a thin taste. The body of the tadpole is differentiated into two distinct regions. The short anterior trunk, see on the screen you can see the short anterior trunk, and the second one the long posterior tail, this thing. So in this way this body is divided into two portions. Now the first one, that is the trunk. Now here on the screen you can see the trunk portion. Now it is much short in comparison to the tail. In its mid-dorsal region, the anterior part of the nerve cord is expanded to form a brain which shows three regions. That is the cerebral cone, then sensory vesicle, visceral or trunk ganglion. Then at the most anterior end you can see the mouth, that is located on the anterior part of the dorsal surface of the trunk. Then you can see the alimentary canal is well differentiated into short buccal cavity, then large pharynx, short narrow esophagus, swollen stomach, and curved slender intestine and a small rectum. That means the digestive system is completely developed in the larva. So all these portions present in the anterior side of the larva. It is in the atrium. The pharynx has pairs of gill slits or stigmata and the ventral endostyle. As we had seen in the digestive system of the herdmania, the pharynx is there, the gill slits are also there. Then we come to the second portion, that is the tail. See here. Now in the tail region, you can see the neural tube. Then one middle structure, it is called as notochord, and the third part, that is the caudal muscles. Now students, here you note that the notochord. So because of this presence of notochord in the developing stage, this animal is included in the phylum Chordata. So wherever this notochord structure is present, all these animals belongs to the phylum Chordata. In some lower chordates it is present in the developing stage, later on it is degenerate. And in some higher chordates, this notochord is developed into a vertebral column. So that means the presence of notochord is the most important character for the chordates. So here, this is the structure of the Ascidian tadpole. Now the next point in this series, that is the retrogressive metamorphosis. See, metamorphosis is the change. That means Because of this change, one structure is developed into a modified adult structure. That is called as metamorphosis, changes in the life cycle and the adult stages form. But here the word that is the retrogressive metamorphosis. Now, retrogressive metamorphosis means here the adult stage is formed by losing some organs of the body, and the adult stages appear, and this type of metamorphosis is called as retrogressive metamorphosis. Now, in this case, what happened in the retrogressive metamorphosis? As I mentioned, there is the loss of some organs. Now, in the Ascidian tadpole, the first loss is occur in the, that is the tail, loss of tail. So the metamorphosis involved degeneration of the tail, including notochord, nerve cord, and tail muscles. So the tail is completely lost. The tissues are autolyzed and reabsorbed by the metamorphosing larva, and as a result, the tail is begin to shorten and ultimately disappears together. Then, changes in the brain. Second one. The sensory vesicle, which its sense organs breaks down, the anterior part of the sensory vesicle gives rise to the neural gland, whereas its posterior part, in conjunction with the trunk ganglion, forms the nerve ganglion of the animal, and the trunk ganglion transformed into a visceral nerves. Then, third one, perfection of alimentary tract. So, as we know, the herd mania is a permanently attached animal. So, its alimentary canal is start from the branchial siphon, then in the middle it is becoming round, and the distal end is entered into the atrium siphon. So, here in the larva it is a straight, but here the pharynx enlarges, stigmata increases in number and become muscularized by blood channels. Stomach grows bigger, intestine becomes U-shaped, and liver is formed. So here it is become U-shaped. These are the changes in the alimentary canal. Then formation of the ectodermal ampullae. So ectoderm and the taste extends from the four corners of the trunk of attached metamorphosing larva over the substratum in the form of outgrowth called as ectodermal ampullae, and they serve double role of respiration and anchorage. Respiration and the attachment. Then fifth one, that is the shifting of mouth and the atrial aperture. The portion of the larval body between point of attachment and the mouth proliferates rapidly, and this causes the body to rotate dorso-posteriorly through an angle of 180 degree, and due to this the mouth and atrial aperture are carried to the opposite free end. So for understanding this, you have to see the diagram of the herd mania. That mouth is present in the siphon, branchial siphon, and the last part of the is here in the atrial siphon. So there is a change or shifting of the mouth is taking place. Then loss of adhesive papillae. The adhesive papillae, not an any functional significance in the adult, disappear. So it is present in the larval stage, but then it is disappeared. Then 7. Development of taste. The taste is the outermost covering, and it becomes thick, tough, and the translucent. Then next, elaboration of the blood vascular system. So as a development, the heart completes its development and connected with the blood sinuses at the both the ends. Means circulatory system is become well developed. Then 9. Formation of gonads. So as it is developed into a mature side of the animal or the adult one, so naturally the gonads and their ducts develop into in the mesoderm. It is in between, present in the loop of the intestine. Then the last one, that is the opening of the mouth. So here the taste is reabsorb in the region over the mouth so that an adult Ascidian feeding by a ciliary currents become established. Thus, here in the conclusion, what we see here, the active free swimming larva with many typical chordate features like an axial notochord, dorsal hollow nerve cord, ventral gut changes into an inert sessile adult with little characterization of chordate nature. So all these changes are nothing but called as retrogressive metamorphosis. Now here, when the metamorphosis includes such morphogenetic changes that convert an advanced larva into a primitive adult animal, then such a metamorphosis is called degenerative or retrogressive metamorphosis. Now see the diagram. In the first, you can see this is the larva. It is attached from the anterior side by the adhesive papillae, and then slowly what we discuss now, all the organs, the tail, and the changes are taking place, and lastly we come to the adult stage, that is the herd mania. See here, these siphons are there, and the U-turn is the shaped elementary canal changes is there. So mouth is here on one end, and the rectum is on the another end. So here the degenerative changes are taking place, and we get the primitive chordate animal. So this is called as retrogressive metamorphosis. Thank you.